As you know, we define the collect efficiency. Just wait. My mouse is not working. Give me 1 minute. So if you pay attention for the collect efficiency, we define a parameter called the collect efficiency neta. So this is the definition, as you know. AC power output to load. You have divided by DC power taken from the supply. So this ratio we define as the collect efficiency. We have discussed about previous lecture, but keep in mind that this definition. So I'll apply this concept for this amplifier circuit. Just assume this is the characteristics graph, and you can notice here load line we have discussed previously. Just assume when you change the IB current, the bias current, when you fluctuate this current, as you know, this IC divided by IB equal neta. By satisfying this equation, when you change the IB values, IC also fluctuate. Just assume you will fluctuate this IC current to utilize this whole span. Just assume this is the maximum value for I you can get, is the lowest value. So if you interest, you can fluctuate this IC from this middle point onward. So you can fluctuate this IC current from here to here. Just assume if you utilize this whole spectrum, or from 0 to 10 milliamp, when you change this IB current, IC also fluctuated with having a maximum margin. So just assume if you don't apply any input signal from outside, then this is the default current drawn through the transistor, or this one represents the default current drawn from the IC port, or IC current in the collector. So if you do any fluctuation of the IB, just assume due to that fluctuation, IC also might be fluctuated with respect to this level. So once you fluctuate, just assume the peak value from this point to here is IX. Just assume IX. And then this IX, if you want, you can equate, you have a I max value here. This is I max value. So if you divide this I max value by 2, you can assume this amount equal to IX. So you are fluctuating this IX, or this peak value, compared with the half of this I max. So just assume if you operate your transistor something like this, then based on this fluctuation, you can define the collect efficiency. So just look here. So when you give the RMS voltage from outside, you can experience that IB will be fluctuated, and based on the beta, the gain of the IC divided by IB, the ratio define the IC current. So you can write down your IC value, and it might be changed from in between this range. And if you change, or if you fluctuate this current, what you can do, you can write down some value for the IC RMS value. This one represents the RMS value for this sinusoidal signal. This sinusoidal signal, if you want to compute the RMS value, what you will do, just divide this peak value by √2. To compute the RMS value, as you know, you have divided the peak value by √2. Once you divide this Ix by √2, you can derive the equation for the IRMS. So Ix you can find by using this Imax and Imin values. As you know, this one just assume as Imax value and this one is Imin value. Then you can write down here 2 times of this Ix equal 2 times of this Ix equal Imax minus Imin. So by referring that relationship, you can compute some value for Ix. You can find some relationship for Ix. Then once you compute that value, or if you found that relationship, just substitute that one into this equation. So once you substitute that value or the parameter in the equation, your IRMS equal becomes something like this. You can find the IRMS value by dividing peak value by a √2. This peak value you can represent by using this Imax values and Imin value. You are fluctuating this one between Imax and Imin. And similarly, what you can do, you can compute or you can derive some equation for the RMS value for the VC. When you fluctuate the IC value, VCE also fluctuate. And then based on that peak values, you can compute RMS value for the VC. So to compute that one, just assume when you fluctuate this IC value, this axis represent the VCE variation. This axis is VCE. So when you change or when you fluctuate this IC current with respect to that sinusoidal fluctuation, you can predict the shape of the VC with respect to time. This graph represents with respect to time versus VC. And then by referring this sinusoidal signal, just assume this peak value is Vx, then 2 times of Vx is equal to Vmax minus Vmin. Then you can find some value for Vx equal Vmax minus Vmin divided by 2. And then just substitute this Vx into this equation. Then you can write down some value. If you know the peak value, if you divide this peak value by √2, you are computing the RMS value. Then if you divide this RMS, or if you divide this peak value by √2, you have a relationship for the RMS. You can represent that RMS value something like this. Now you have computed the RMS value for the VCE and VIC for the output side. It's kind of output side voltages and currents. My target is to derive the equation for neta. Keep in mind that my plan is to find some equation or relationship for neta. To do that one, I am finding some parameter relevant to this neta. I'm looking some parameter to substitute for this equation. In your collective efficiency equation, as you know, this part you had to substitute something like this: DC power taken from the source. And here, this term you have represent AC power output to the load. Then if you want to compute that one, P out delivered to the load, you can write down P out equal IRMS into VCE RMS value. So already you have derived some relationship for this IC RMS value and VCE for VCE RMS value. Then if you substitute this IRMS, you have equation here. You have a derived equation here for IRMS and you have equation for VCE RMS. Then you can compute the AC power delivered to the load. This one represents the AC power delivered to the load. Okay, that's the idea. In your equation, when you derive some equation values for the neta, you have two terms. Now you have computed this component. Sorry, you have computed relationship for the this term. Now we have to think about what should I substitute for this one. Once you substitute this IRMS value and VRMS value, P out is become something like this. Please note down this one. Then I have to go for the next slides. You have to draw this characteristic graph also, this load line and other stuff. Please note down this one. Then I'll go for the next slide. What I did here, I just compute AC power out to the load. This is AC power out to the load. My next step is to compute some value for DC power taken from supply. Please note down this one. And then we have to take the attendance. So just put your name and registration number for the chat box. Just substitute your registration number and the name to the chat box. Please draw this graph also and show the variations of this input signal and output signal of this IC and VC. Last week lecture, I just upload for the YouTube. If you want, you can see that one. This one also I can upload for the YouTube. Then you can easily access for the video clips. No problem. I'll go for the next slides. Just look the next slide. So if you want to compute that collect efficiency, this is the equation. This term represents AC power output to the load, AC power output to the load, and this term represents DC power taken from the supply. DC power taken from the supply. So as you know, if you operate that one in the IC level, IC current, you can write down IC into Vs. Vs represent, if you switch back to the slide, this Vs represent the supply voltage, and then IC represent the IC current drawn from this Q point. Okay, so Vs is the supply voltage. If you refer the circuit diagram, you have a supply voltage. That supply voltage represents the Vs. And then if you solve this equation, as you know, this IC max is equal, this IC max almost equal to 2 times of IC. IC mean the current at the Q point, the IC current at the operating point. You can see that one in the graph, the current at the operating time. If you operate at the middle point of the load line, if you operate your transistor at the middle point of the load line, then this Imax is almost equal to 2 times of IC. Or else IC max minus IC min is almost equal 2 times of IC. IC is the current at the operating point. If you check the load line, just look your graph. IC is represent the current at the operating point, that Q point. So if you set your transistor at the middle of the load line, and then you can substitute this 2 times of Vs equal to VCC or Vs. The reason is the maximum VCE you can go for the Vs supply voltage. Therefore, you can solve this equation and finally you can conclude that this efficiency is around 50%. That's the way how to compute the efficiency. This efficiency you are getting, assume that you are operating your transistor at the middle point of the load line. This is IC, this axis is VCE, and this value is VCC. So this is the maximum value. This is the maximum value. Then VCE min minus VCE max is almost equal to, if you know the voltage of the supply voltage is almost equal to VCC, and select this operating point middle of the load line, and then you can find some value for neta. This efficiency is around 50%. So keep in mind that if you refer the amplifier circuit, when your input signal equal to 0, as example, just assume you have amplifier circuit, something like this. So you can give some voltage or input from this terminal. But assume that when this IB equals 0, still there is a current flow from this path, and still there is a current flow from IC, and still there's a current flow. Therefore, although you operate your transistor in the circuit, when there's no input signal, but still there's a current flow, this is not good for the circuit, because you can experience that there's a power dissipation through these RE and RC resistors. Therefore, when your external input equals 0, still you can experience that there's a current flow through the transistor. Therefore, keep in mind that when you develop transistors based amplifiers, this power loss is there. So you have to find some solutions. Still, when your input signal is 0, but still you can experience that there is IC, IE, and IB currents, because to bias the transistor, you have to give some voltage. Once you fluctuate the input signal, then you can experience that these IC, IE, and IB will fluctuate. But when you set your simple IB equal, or this one represents the external input, when your external input is 0, but still you have a direct current through the circuit. Therefore, this type of amplifiers are not efficient. Therefore, amplifiers are class based on this issue. They bias or deploy transistor based on the different scenarios. I'll explain it based on different scenarios. For example, sometimes you can set your amplifier and you can give some input. The whole sinusoidal signal you can feed for the base terminal. Or else there's another option, you can give the half of the signal for the base terminal. Or else you can give this amount or this portion of signal for the transistor, or you can give small portion for your transistor. Based on this percentage of the input signal, to the amplifier, we define the amplifier classes or transistor classes. This one we call the class A, and if you deploy your mechanism under these conditions, if you feed your whole signal to the amplifier circuit, then we call that one class A amplifiers. If you give the exactly half of the signal for the amplifier circuit, then we call that one class B amplifiers. If you feed your input signal something like this amount, then we call the class AB amplifiers. If you apply your input signal as a part of the signal, then we call the class C operation. Something like that, we are configuring amplifiers class A, class B, class AB, class C, class D, class C, something like that, based on this input signal. As example, if you consider the class A amplifiers, the current flow through the load for complete input cycle. Keep in mind that in class A operation, current flow through the load for the complete input cycle. So when you give the sinusoidal signal during the whole signal or complete input signal, you can experience that there's a current flow. Basic amplifiers we develop based on this concept, especially that audio amplifiers, pocket radio, something like that. Those amplifiers we configure based on the class C amplifiers. There's another version we call the class B amplifiers. Class B amplifiers. As I mentioned previously, in the class B amplifier, current flow to the load for only half the input cycle. 50% you are feeding for the load. The rest of the thing you are not feeding for the amplifier or the transistor. Therefore, to give the whole signal, sometimes you have to use a pair of transistors. Later on, I'll explain it, how to deploy this mechanism. The reason is if you feed the half of the signal, then you are getting a unwanted output signal. But there's a solution. But keep in mind that if you configure your amplifier or transistors, something like this, then we call that one class B. If you pay attention for the class AB, just read here. In this compromise between A and B, the current flow through the load for more than half of the input cycle. So it produces some less distortion, but there is a slight loss of efficiency. We'll see later on. We'll see later on. So I will explain. Actually, previously we discussed about the class A amplifiers. Previous example basically focused on the class A amplifier. The reason is, you can understand here, you can see the total signal I feed for the transistor. If you operate your amplifier at this point, if you set your amplifier to operate at the Q point, and Q point is located on the middle of the load line, then definitely this configuration we call the class A configuration. This is class A configuration. But if you configure your amplifier circuit or the transistor, if you feed this type of signal, you are feeding half of the signal, and then this amplifier convert to class B. If you operate your sinusoidal signal from middle of the load line, then that is class A amplifiers. If you set your operating point to here or something, and if you fluctuate the signal half of the signal for the one transistor, and next half you can feed for the another transistor by using pair of transistors. I will show you how to do that one. I will show you how to do. Look here. This is the idea. You can deploy the class B amplification by using pair of transistors. You can use here NP and PNP. During the first half cycle, keep in mind that during the first half cycle, you are feeding this signal into this transistor. And next half, you are feeding this signal to this one, something like that. We are using complementary pairs. Part will amplify by using one transistor rather than using a single transistor. You can use it two transistors, and 50% you can manage with support of this transistor. Next half you can manage with this transistor. Then this application we call the class B amplification. Class B amplification. Just read this one. Just read this one. When the power delivered by the single transistor is too small, more than one transistor can be used. In the class B amplification, complementary pairs, you have to use NP and PNP transistor. And during the first half cycle, this one forward bias and this one reverse bias. During the second half cycle, this one forward bias, this one become reverse bias. Keep in mind that when you fluctuate this or when you feed this type of sinusoidal signal during first half cycle, NPN forward bias, PNP1 is reverse bias. During the second half cycle, first NPN transistor become reverse bias, second transistor become a forward bias. So this kind of complementary behavior, and then half will support for the one transistor, another half will feed by the another transistor. So that's the idea how to use this transistor in the class B configuration, under the class B configurations. So note down firstly this previous slide. Just write down this diagram. Please note down these things, kind of summary. Write the heading as a class of operations, classes of operations. Please note down this one, class of operations. So transistors we can deploy in class A amplification, class B amplification, class AB, class C, class D, class E. Based on the behavior, we are classifying or we are separate those under the classes based on their configurations. This is a summary actually. Then we will go to the next slide. So you can write down this definition for the class A, class B, class AB, and classes. Please note down this paragraph, then you can get some idea. This is the definition for the class A. Here you can find the definition for the class AB. Here you can find the definition for the class B. Please note down these things. Is it possible to do next week lecture at Thursday 8:30 p.m. the night? Thursday
Yes,
8:30. Any objections?
no, sir. So we would like to do that in that time, sir.
Sorry?
That's not a peak time. No? So we have no objections to do that at times. We can do that, sir.
8:30, okay, no?
Okay, sir.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay.
Because this is the peak time, sometimes difficult to connect, some issues are there. So I will not send the link for you. Refer the same invitation what we used today and just join next Thursday 8:30 p.m.
Okay.
Thursday.
Thursday, not Friday, no?
Friday rather than Thursday is good, no?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
But if you're interested, I can do the Thursday and Friday and bold day and I can complete everything quickly, no problem.
Okay, so I will let you know by
Yeah, we
asking
will
on the brand.
we will see, we'll see.
Okay.
Next week I'll do Thursday, okay?
Okay, sir.
If you have any objection, just let me know, then I will again do at same time. No problem.
Okay.
Dear friend, don't forget it next Thursday 8:30 p.m. Please write down these definitions. So I'll go to the next slide. Hope the given time is enough for you. Is it okay? I'll switch to the next slide. Hope you have enough time to note down these things. So this one represents how we deploy class B operation with the support of the transistors. You have to use here complementary pair as I mentioned previously, NP and PNP. You can see here during the first half cycle, NPN transistor properly biased. The emitter, the voltage in between base terminal and the emitter terminal, you can see here that junction is forward bias. That NPN or PN junction is forward bias during the first half cycle. During the second half cycle, the first transistor not forward bias, but the second transistor will forward bias. But there's an issue. The issue is something like that. As you know, to flow the current through the transistor, your input voltage in between VBE should be higher with the, if it is silicon transistor, 0.6 volt. Therefore, keep in mind that until 0.6, once you increase your input voltage, just assume this is your input signal and there might be a level for this 0.6 or something. Just assume this is a 0.6 level. And then when you give the input cycle, this part, until the voltage is exceed this amount, your transistor will remain as a disabled or cut off region. This is the area. But if your input signal is exceed more than 0.6 volt, then that point onward, you can see the fluctuation. Again, if your input signal is less than 0.6, or if your VBE value is in between 0.6 or something, you are not getting any IC or I current. Therefore, there's an issue. Actually, when you increase this, or if you feed this sinusoidal signal from minus 0.6 to plus 0.6, your transistor remain cut-off region. Therefore, during that fluctuation time, the output is questionable. That range this input is you are not getting any input, IC is remaining 0. Is due to this issue, or this issue we introduce as the crossover distortion. Once you increase or once you reduce your voltage, if your input is remaining minus 0.6 to plus 0.6, during that period or that range, you are not getting output. That range, you can experience that you don't have output fluctuation. That issue we call the crossover distortion. But if you use appropriate resistors to here to make some voltage drop around 0.6 here and around 0.6 here, you can solve this crossover distortion issue. Therefore, to solve that issue or to minimize that crossover distortion, you have to select appropriate R2 resistor value to maintain the proper minimum voltage in between base and emitter. And then once you input sinusoidal signal, you don't experience such crossover distortion. Keep in mind that. Just noted down this one. This one represents the class B amplification part. The half of the cycle will amplify by the one transistor. The next half will amplify the second transistor. Please draw this circuit diagram and note down these issues also. can see until you increase your voltage around 0.6 or 7, IB, IC, IE remains 0. Once you exceed that amount, then you can experience that there's a considerable power or current flow through the transistor. Until that 0.7, you are not getting output. That period we define as a crossover distortion area. Crossover distortion. You can remove that crossover distortion by integrating proper resistor value or proper two resistor R2 to the circuit by giving a proper voltage or maintain a proper voltage in between the emitter and base terminal. You can mitigate that issue. You can remove that crossover distortion issue. During the first half cycle, as you know, the NPN transistor is biased and start to working and it switch to the active region and PNP remaining cutoff region. During the second half cycle, PNP transistor goes to the active region, NPN goes to the cutoff region. This pair is working complementary. Then we'll go to the next slide. If you read this one, you can see here. So here we embed the proper resistors value to maintain the correct voltage in between base terminal, in between this base terminal and the emitter terminal here. And similarly, we have to maintain proper voltage drop to forward bias this PN junction. We have to maintain a resistor here to give the proper voltage in between this base and emitter. To do that voltage or to boost that voltage, you can get some support from this R2 resistor. Then that distortion issue you can remove by using a voltage divider. You can maintain a correct voltage in between this B and E. That will cause to remove that crossover distortion. The beauty is here, when you apply a input signal, you can see your circuit will start to active or switch to active region and start to do the amplification part. But when your input is equal to 0, then both transistor will stay in the cutoff region. You have to tune this R2 resistors properly. Then when your input equal to 0, then your both NP and PNP transistor stay at the cutoff region. Just select proper value. You have to tune it. Once you tune it, you can set that when your input equals 0, all currents you can maintain 0. If you tune properly, then you can improve the efficiency of this amplifier, and you can set the unnecessary current flow when your input is equal to 0. If you don't apply an input signal, you have to make sure that there's no current through the transistors. You can achieve that one by selecting proper resistors for this circuit, especially these R2 values. So note down this paragraph. I'm the coordinator for this module, so if you have any doubts or issues, just let me know. Previously, Dr. Jayasundara is the coordinator, but this time that responsibility is given to me because he's working with us another 1 year, then he will going to retire. Therefore, he just hand over the responsibility for me. So if you have any issues, just let me know. Then I'll finish today's lecture. Next lecture I will continue in Thursday 8:30 p.m. at the night. So I will not send the email for you. Just refer the previous or today you have used some link today. Just refer the same link with user ID, sorry, password and ID. Then you can join for the lecture. So have a nice day.